a friend of mine, while we were playing Barbies, Ken and Barbie were romancing each other. And then, you know, as things tend to do, that led into them having sex. And I just sort of, like, was pushing them together. And then she was like, no, the guy has to go on the bottom or else he's gonna crush the girl Barbie. That's how people have sex.
Is that not true?
Sex was a thing between boys and girls that it involved, like, something to do with genitals, like private parts. It was like, ooh, don't touch my private parts. Like, that's nasty. That's sex.
I mean, you hear about it in elementary school, but you don't really understand what is going on. Like, you think maybe sex is just kissing or making out. You don't really think about it.
So in middle school, there was this one particular guy, and he always talked about porn. And I didn't really know what that was. And he suggested a website. And he talked about how he would masturbate, like, a lot, like 10 times. And he went on the bus with me, so that was, like, a topic of conversation, like, every day.
There was this guy on this bus. I was a weird kid. I kind of, like, parted my hair in the middle and had, like, glasses that were like this. And, like, just wasn't, no one was a fan of me. And he was trying to tell me that I was never going to get a boyfriend. Which was fine because I didn't even like male humans. They were just not someone I wanted to be around. But it pissed me off that he was saying that, so I, like, got fired up about it. And he started, like, yelling to the whole bus, and he was like, I will make love to myself if Celine ever gets a boyfriend. And then I didn't know what that meant.
But yeah, I remember that one comment about, like, yeah, if you kiss someone with your clothes off, they get pregnant. And it wasn't, like, gender biased. Like, a man could get pregnant, too, if you kiss with your clothes off.
The first time I remember talking about it is that there was this girl in the 6th grade, and we were sitting in the library, and she kept telling me and my friends that, like, in 1 or 2 years we were going to start having organisms instead of orgasms.
I feel like if girls talked about it, it was just like, oh, me and my boyfriend, we had a really great time last night.
Like girls would talk about, like, oh yeah, we had, like, such a great time, like, we didn't go all the way, but, you know, like, it was really nice and, like, sweet and blah, 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 blah.
And, like, the females had, like, this la-la vision, like, you know, it was going to be like a Disney movie, and it was, like a Prince Charming type thing.
They were just a whole hell of a lot more careful than my guy friends. They were careful not to give advice. They were careful not to... They would always start things like, this is what I've heard, or this is my experience. And weirdly enough, they were... Though they had been more timid in middle school talking about that type of thing, and by the time high school rolled around, they were the ones who were very mature about it. They could talk about it without, you know, giggling. If the conversation came up, they got very serious. It wasn't something to joke about.
They had, like, a tally system of, like, how far they could get with people, like, based off, like, points of how hot they were. So, like, you may have, like, only, like, got to second base with her, but because she was hotter, like, it counted as more points.
Usually, I mean, if I'm talking to guys, it'll just be about, like, you know, they'll be making jokes about it more than, like, seriously.
The male's perspective was more about, like, them dominating.
And sex was, again, about conquest. There was no talk of, you know, finding that deep, serious connection with someone and having sex be the bridge that helped bring two people together in a committed relationship. It was about, you know, have sex, move on to the next one, like, hone your skills, you know, collect, you know, a bunch of women's names. And
in middle school, I definitely heard a lot things coming from males specifically. I felt like at a younger age, they were already talking about things that would, like, make a woman, I guess, seem as of a less value.
And it was mostly people talking in the locker rooms, I guess. I have one really bad memory about one guy talking really aggressively about having group sex, him and one other guy and one girl, and he was laughing about it, and I've never forgotten that.
The expectation for guys is that if you wait too long, it's a bad thing. So, like, the 40-year-old virgin, for example, like, you don't want to be that. Like, So pretty much as young as you can is a good thing. Whereas for females, I would say you should wait a little bit, but you still should do it. Like girls that didn't have sex are kind of seen as fuddy-duddies.
Most people expected. For me, you know, to be able to court the affections of multiple girls was admirable. You know, everybody thought that was you were the shit if you could do that. Whatever.
You have to be really good at giving head, and men like a freak in the bed, apparently.
But there's definitely that Madonna whore dichotomy with like, if you don't do it, you're a prude, and if you do it, you're a slut, and there really isn't any middle ground.
Like the word like dating implies for me, I think that like it's an exchange. And so that the women, the male buys things and then the women give sexual favors. And so like I feel for me that like I don't use the word dating because like I feel like there's a bad connotation, like it has to be an exchange. There's pressure on the female that it has to be exchanged in that way.
Men thought they understood sex because they talked about it with all their friends all the time, and it was this thing that some of them had experienced, and it was this, you know, tool in their arsenal of, you know, male power that they could use. And women were expected sort of to deal with that. And there was a whole lot of that, well, you need to dress appropriately so men don't get the wrong idea, and you need to know when to say no because, you know, this is just part of a teenage male and he doesn't know how to deal with it.
I think, like, honestly, you only heard about, like, heterosexual sex.
It was also very heteronormative too, so it was good for men to like have a lot of male attention if you were a girl and to have a lot of female attention if you were a guy.
Definitely, I was supposed to want, you know, girls. That was kind of a given. But, I mean, that's not the feedback I necessarily received from my parents or my teachers, or not that anybody was, like, explicitly homophobic. That's just what most people expected.
I came out my freshman year of high school, so the difference between being a gay man, feeling pressure to have sex, and everyone else who was straight being like, you know, you need to find a girlfriend, because even though I had come out to some of my close friends, they were still pressuring me to have sex with women, to like, you know, they told me that it would, just to test it, to see if I really was gay and maybe not, and I should still have sex with women because you don't want to have just men. And I was like, okay. Yeah, there was a lot of pressure.